Hello everyone, and welcome to After Alexander. Episode 65, Passing on the Mantle. The fourth generation has been succeeded by the fifth. Seleucus II leaves behind him two sons, Alexander and Antiochus. It's December of 225 BCE, and the Seleucids have been in power for about 87 years according to the Seleukid calendar. So, let's see what happens next. Alexander became the next king, as you would expect. His ancient world epithet is listed as Soter or Karaunus. We've come across Soter before. This is the word saviour, and Antiochus I used it 3 generations ago. The other epithet we've also come across before, in the form of Ptolemy Karaunus, or Ptolemy the Thunderbolt as we called him. He was the son of Ptolemy I, half-brother of Ptolemy II, and the assassin of Seleucus I in 281 BCE. Based on this epithet, Grainger speculates that Alexander may have been loud and lacking patience. Let's talk a bit more about our new king's character. Wikipedia says he's full of energy and has ambition, just like his father Seleucus II. I would definitely back the idea of Seleucus being energetic, given how much went on in our previous reign, but ambitious? I don't necessarily know if I would say it's ambitious to run around acting as a firefighter for 20 years. Regardless, Alexander supposedly has another side to him. He's apparently not that charismatic, and he is sickish, which hinders his ambition. Our new monarch was born in about 243 BCE. Depending on when exactly he was born in the year 243, he was about 18 when he took power. It's possible that he was 17 if he was born in late December 243, but on the face of it this seems statistically unlikely. Compared to the possibility of a regency for a child king, which we will see later on in our story, it's not a bad place the Seleucid Empire finds itself in succession-wise. At least their new king is an adult. However, neither Bevan nor Grainger envies the position Alexander finds himself in. Both the west and the east of the empire were looking shaky. Meanwhile, his dad's death meant Egypt could theoretically start fighting the empire once again, and Attalus had been strengthening his grip on Anatolia. Admittedly, Attalus was not invulnerable, but Egypt would have been more of a challenge. There is reason to be somewhat optimistic. Once Seleucus had consolidated his position, possibly in about 224 BCE, the Seleucids might have become aware that Ptolemy III was getting mixed up in a situation in Sparta. This situation was due to Cleomenes III of Sparta fighting the Achaean League. Cleomenes was one of the 2 co-kings of Sparta between 235 and 222, for context. Ptolemy III was backing Cleomenes in his conflict, although his son Ptolemy IV will eventually let him fall by the wayside. All of this was drawing Ptolemy's attention away, something the young regime would probably have welcomed. But now, let's turn to the final issue for today, the king's name. I've been referring to him as Alexander during this episode, and ever since he was introduced, given that this was his birth name. However, we will sadly have to wave goodbye to this name today. This is because, when he became king, Alexander took the regnal name of Seleucus. Given what I've speculated in the past for Laodike II, maybe it's possible he wanted to keep the name Seleucus to emphasize continuity with the past. Even if the empire is currently in an okay position, maybe this emphasis of stability was still a good thing. Then again, I'd be tempted to argue the Seleukid court thought this name was just too original and they couldn't handle it. However it happened, we have a new dawn that is quite similar to the old dawn. All hail King Seleucus III. It's interesting to me that Edwin Bevan, in his summary of the Seleucid Empire, doesn't even mention the name change at the start of the new reign and instead just calls him Seleucus III straight away. All of this does mean that we have ended up with 2 princes called, once again, Seleucus and Antiochus. That, and there is no new king Alexander. This is why we can't have nice things. However, let's turn away from my vendetta against the Seleucid naming customs and towards the new reign. This is because the Seleucid court now decided it was feasible to look towards Anatolia. This decision might have been influenced by what was assumed to be the remnants of goodwill that any Macedonian inhabitants of the peninsula had towards the House of Seleucus. With that, we've reached the end of today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Feel free to reach out at the show's email address for any questions or comments. Until next time, have a great week, everyone.